All right, item 7A, public hearings, appeals, presentations. Conduct a public hearing for the proposed 2022-2023 fiscal year budget. Michael Spurgeon.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and those in attendance this evening and those watching. As a part of the annual budget process, the city is required to hold a public hearing, and with the permission of the council, I'm going to give a short presentation that's going to hit the highlights of the FY 2023 budget. And then after I've given my presentation, Mayor, I would ask that you would open the meeting for public comment as we do every year, and see if there's any public comments, and if not, then you would close the comments. And then if council's ready, then at the June 20th meeting, then you would consider adoption. Okay. As I mentioned, I'm very excited to present the proposed budget for this year. As the council members know, one of your most important responsibilities outside of meeting and dealing with constituents is the preparation of the annual budget. It takes the council a great deal of time to go through the document to make sure that you understand what the presentation is, and that all culminated with a work session, a very extensive work session that was held on May 24th, where we actually went through the proposed expenditures and spent a great deal of time on both the operational expenditures as well as the proposed capital budget. Cindy Arnold and I, and also Mr. Tom Cook, are here in case any members of the council have a question. I would like to point out that this is the budget document that we put together for the governing body members. For those in the audience and those in attendance, there is a copy on our website, and what you have to do is just go to the search engine and type in FY 2023, and that will take you to the link that you will click on the finance page. And then from there, you can actually go through the exact same document that the city council members have would be available for the public, including the executive summary. Every single page that is in this book that you receive is also available for the citizens or any interested party to take a look at. So I encourage anyone that's interested to actually take a minute and actually do that, because there's a lot of great information about how the city is going to be spending its funds in 2023 if you approve the budget, as well as the financial plan for 2024. Quickly, this is the highlights, is the things or topics I'm going to go over this evening. Just the budget message, the budget overview, an update on the Broken Arrow Municipal Utility Authority, Operations Capital, a quick comment about our general obligation bond projects, and then answer any questions the council members may have. I always like to start this off because some folks don't know exactly what our cycle is, but every year we operate off of July 1 or June 30th or a fiscal year cycle. We don't operate from January 1st to December 31st. As the council members know, the municipal budget serves the following purposes. It really is a blueprint for providing municipal services for the upcoming fiscal year. We attempt to match available resources with the community's needs, and it outlines the work plan and priorities for the organization. We spend a lot of time throughout the year talking about vision and trying to bring that vision into focus. Obviously, that vision is very flexible based on the needs of the community, but we try to at least frame in various sections of how we'd like to move the community forward. The city has the following priorities when we look at preparing the annual budget. First and foremost is always maintaining long-term fiscal soundness. I mean, obviously, we have a number of expenses that are ongoing, like personnel costs, as well as other operating costs. So it's very important that when we make decisions with regard to those ongoing costs, that we look at not only the impact that they're going to have this year, but also in the future years, because many of those expenses could be perpetual. Public safety preparedness, as I've said a million times, as the council members have in our city, that's where it starts, where it ends. Comprehensive Economic Development Administration, obviously, we have two entities that are responsible for economic development administration, and that is to ensure that we have folks working on generation of the fuel needed to keep our city at great quality of life, and a part of that is having the revenue to do so. Affordable public utilities and ongoing investments in public infrastructure, and it's really all about, whether it's economic development, whether it's public safety, parks, recreation, it's really all about maintaining great quality of life within our community. Our budget book is several hundred pages. I think it's about close in terms of what the budget is this year, and I'll mention that just a minute. The budget book includes the city manager's executive summary, proposed revenues, expenditures for each fund, and we do have close to 30, if not over 30 different funds. Proposed department budgets, special funds, proposed expenditures, revenues, and fund balances, street maintenance plan, proposed FY 2023 GO bond sale, the proposed Oklahoma Water Resources Board loan program for our water and sewer needs, and then the manual of fees, which the council members will be considering at a later date. When we put the budget together, we really look at 4 key practices of making sure that our revenues and expenditures are conservative. Council members have said, although we've had success each and every year, especially the last 2 years, we still want to take a conservative approach to our budgeting because, once again, looking at those ongoing expenses is very, very important. Ensure all funds balance. We've included built-in contingencies for unexpected or the buildup of reserves, and the administration presented you a budget that's within compliance of the reserve requirements that the council has by policy. And once again, we focus on long-term financial stability. Our budget is really centered around implementation of council's #1 ongoing priority, which is great services to the community. And as we've all said up here, is that we try very hard to get to yes. Now, yes isn't always 100% yes. It's always trying to get some form of yes. If we can't do everything, well, there's a cost to that. And that creates a high expectation, which I believe our residents have in terms of what they expect from the city, because that is our goal, to try to get to yes. And I appreciate the council members' support to make sure that if we need additional people, that you're willing to support that, or if we have to make adjustments in our budgets to continue to get to yes, I really appreciate your help on that. Addressed our increasing demands for public infrastructure and public services as part of a growing community. We're seeing tremendous growth within our community, really in all sectors, and as a result of that is that public infrastructure is one of our #1 responsibilities, and making sure. And sometimes I think the public doesn't understand is that the wants of widening roads, actually sidewalks, curbs. I mean, there's a cost to all that, and balancing what people are willing to pay in property taxes for general obligation bond versus the needs is something that we do constantly, and the next time we're going to get a chance to do that is in 2027. And then maintain a great quality of life. So moving on with respect to the budget, I always like to show this slide first, because some folks, when they go to a local store and they spend $100 and it's $108, they always say, why is that city tax so high? They think that $8 they're paying for $100 is actually all the city. Well, in fact, it's not. Only about 3 and 3.55 of that 8.4 in Tulsa County, or 8.8 in Wagner County, goes to the city for us to be able to operate. So this year, our proposed budget is $311,373,303. This represents overall a 2.6% increase over FY 2022, which was $3,420,407. So if you break this down operationally, it was right at $142 million, which represents about a 9% increase over the previous year of $130 million. Our capital outlay is actually down by about 3% to $136 million. And then obviously we have debt service that we have to pay for the loans that we've taken out, predominantly for our general obligation bond package, Oklahoma Water Resources Board. So we have a total of $311,373,303. The general fund, which really consists of many of the services we provide outside of public safety, in fact, all of the services outside of public safety and utilities, as proposed this year, is just over $121 million. And this includes the expenditures, transfers out, and the ending fund balances. Last year, we were at $110 million, almost $111 million. Once again, that's a 9.4% increase. We are including a cost of living increase for our employees, as well as we've anticipated the increase in the cost of doing business as a result of where we are with the economy, the cost of gasoline, for example, as well as our ability to receive goods and services. There's been an increase in those areas as well. As far as our revenue forecast, total revenues for FY 2023, this is for the general fund, is right at $79 million. This represents about a 9% increase over last year. However, although we saw a great improvement over the previous year, we're still only projecting about a 1.5% estimate and about 2% on, actually 1.5% for sales tax and 2% on all other revenues. Now, the good thing about this, that if the economy continues to be positive, all that money goes into the respective funds. For example, we're required to provide the police department about a little over 36% of all general fund revenues, and the fire department about 30.3 or so. So if we have a good year, we're required by ordinance per the vote of the people to put that money into their fund, which is available for future years. as well as any increases that the projections, ours are conservative and they're higher, that would go back into our fund balance that we could use for future years as well. So this actually, those are funds that would be used to continue to pay for our budget going forward. The council did authorize, at my recommendation, some additional new positions, and you'll notice there are about a dozen new positions. You're going to see 4 dispatchers, new dispatchers, also a dispatcher supervisor. There are several what I would call support staff positions, because obviously you have frontline folks that are out there. Those people are limited in what they can do in many cases unless you have the folks on the back end that are actually helping them in various respects. And you can see IT did very well this year, as well as which will benefit the utility authority as well as the entire organization with the additional help in areas of information technology. Parks always needs help with the growing community. Horticulture is something very, very important about. Beautification is extremely important. Community development inspector, that's no surprise with the growth that we're having in our areas. Also a part-time engineer, which will help in community development. And as the council talked about at the work session, is we have 157 police officers that are authorized in the budget. However, because of the ebb and flow of hirings and retirements, we're down 11 positions right now. And so at the chief's recommendation, working with the police union, I've recommended to council that we hold 2 academies over the next 2 years to anticipate the retirements that we'll have in order to get us and the chief 157 police officers. And so I think this will help us, and actually I believe it'll get us ahead in terms of making sure we got a full complement of police officers to be able to provide great services to our city. And then there's going to be, in a pilot program, a temporary increase in the number of employees per shift in the fire department. We have 53 right now. We're going to take it for the next year to 55 to see what that does in terms of helping us meet the operational needs. And if in fact that turns out to be as the chief recommends to me, then that may be something we may look to add those six positions permanently. And that's also going to help us because once again there are retirements and we don't always know when those retirements are going to happen. So once again, in order to meet the expectations of our community to assist those already here, we're going to have to add some additional folks. Sales tax capital improvement fund. This represents a 0.5 cent of our 3.55, and this is a dedicated fund that has to be used for capital improvement type projects. Revenue is estimated this year that we'd be able to spend at about $9.6 million. We typically use this as pay-as-you-go capital, except for the note for Bass Pro, which we know now will pay off in about 3.5 years. And we'll be making a recommendation in the coming years on how we would recommend we would use those funds. The proposed expenditures are on page 167 to 173 of the budget book. And I'm mentioning that because anyone that comes back and watches this, they'd be able to go right to see those expenditures. And those expenditures are essentially a breakdown of each department that got their funds. So I think it's a good program, and I'd encourage folks to go take a look at those proposed expenditures. Now, one of the highlights of the budget session always is hearing Rocky Hinkle talk about how much money he's going to spend in street maintenance funds every year, because obviously the voters repurposed a portion of that vision tax. And I'm proud to say is that based on revenues that come in, looks like Rocky's going to have about $4.7 million from the street maintenance fund to be able to work. Now, if you add that to the $2.5 million from the general obligation bond package, Rocky and his team, as well as engineering construction, is going to have about $6.2 million to spend on road maintenance throughout the community. And what we're going to do this year, and I'm excited to announce this to the council, is we have the Thrive Edition that actually talks about different services. We're actually going to create a micro version of the Thrive about our streets and roads. So we're actually going to break it down to talk about anything from a welcome letter to me about why we're doing this and to actually what roads we're going to do and why we do this. Why does it take 3 years to complete a road project? And we're going to be doing this every single year. But instead of sending it out to every household, we're going to send a postcard with the QR code on it, where they've become used to doing that. Because going to restaurants, to save money, we're going to send the card out so folks can actually go online and they can actually look at the street maintenance report. And anytime someone has a question on social media about what the city's doing, communications or you all can refer them right to that report. because that's going to show them what we're tentatively going to be spending on our money on this coming fiscal year for street and road improvements. So Rocky talked about the special fund. He also listed very succinctly a breakdown of how we're going to spend those dollars. And what is exciting about this year's recommendation is he's recommended that we spend $500,000 to upgrade our pavement condition index report, which is the report which he works off of, and he makes recommendations to me and ultimately me to the council on what roads we do. We do it very scientifically, based on the condition of those roads and trying to keep our PCI above 70. What's good about this report is he's recommended that we expand it to not only include streets and roads, but also sidewalks and curbs. So as we begin to move into the 2027 bond package, connectivity is a big thing for the administration and the city council. We'll have to be able to include funds more than we did this in 2018 to be able to work on that connectivity and to upgrade or replace some of those areas where connectivity has been lost. So moving into the Broken Arrow Municipal Utility Authority, this year the proposed budget is a little over $34 million. Last year's was a $43 million, almost $44 million. This is a 6% decrease in operating cost capital outlay, mainly because of a smaller amount of capital projects that we will be doing this year versus last year, or the year that just ended. Now, in the budget highlights, obviously a rate increase is necessary to pay for ongoing operations, our capital improvements, and the OWRB debt service. One of the things the council has been really good at, obviously, is making sure that we take care of our infrastructure. It's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and as you all know, do I need to mention County Line Road, sewer line? Okay, it has a life expectancy. And what Kenny and his team has been really good at, and Chuck Vokes has been amazing, is identifying those areas that we need to make reinvestments in. And so there's $19 million worth of projects that we're going to be asking you to consider sometime during the fiscal year that help maintain that infrastructure. And if you'd like to know more about the proposed OWRB, it's on page 247. But I did include what we'll be asking the council to include for the rate increase for the first year of the new 5-year rate model, which is essentially the same increase that we had in the current year. With regard to general obligation bond projects, I'm pleased to say that right now in some phase of construction, we have almost $50 million from the 2011-14 and 2018 GEO bonds respectively in construction cycle, and the council actually gets the opportunity to improve for this year $43 million to be spent. And right here is a breakdown, and I want to mention what page this is on because it's really good, it's really cool, is this $43 million is broken down into the various propositions from Proposition 1 to Proposition number 5. And if you go to page 246 of the budget, you'll actually be able to see the specific projects. And what is exciting about that package is there's a whole bunch of east-west roads being proposed in that project, in this $43 million, such as we're going to continue Washington from Olive to Aspen. We're going to be looking at Houston from Garnett to Aspen. We're going to be looking at both of those. That's very, very exciting. There's many other projects that were also in there, some projects to the north. So lots of things are happening. Last year, we spent a lot of time working on design, right-of-way. Ethan's team did. And so there's going to be a lot of orange cones throughout the year, and we're going to have to time these because there's so much work to be done. But I'm very excited about the fact that we're going to be moving our community forward. On pages 15 through 28 is the actual proposed 2023 work plan, and it's broken down into communications and transparency, economic development administration initiatives, our new street maintenance program, approved BAMA projects, and various programs and initiatives. Once again, having a vision is extremely important. I was talking to Michael Gordon before the meeting, and he attended the budget workshop and was talking about how much he appreciated the fact that the council spent a lot of time talking about the future and how we're going to get there. And essentially, this is what the work plan outlines, and this is what the document actually says in terms of the service we provide is where do we see Broken Arrow going and what initiatives are important. And if you can get a good snapshot, obviously nothing is etched in stone. It's ultimately up to the council members. If you look at pages 15 through 28, you can get a good idea of some of the most important things we'll be working on. And once again, there's a lot of initiatives that we're looking at that are actually just ways of trying to make this a better place to live, work, and raise a family. So in closing remarks, we built a conservative focus that will help ensure Broken Arrow continues to provide the level of services that residents desire while maintaining the modest tax implications taxpayers have come to expect. I believe the initiatives and spending priorities recommended in this budget submission reflect not only the goals of the City Council, but also the priorities of the residents and the taxpayers of Broken Arrow. Now, when you put together a budget like this, there's many recognitions. I want to start with the council members because I know each one of you went through that budget because of the questions that you asked me at the meeting as well as before the meeting. And I know that you know it well enough because you like to have yourself prepared. So if somebody asks you, you can generally say, hey, here's where you can find it, or here's what the city is spending. So I thank you for your time and effort. And Cindy and her team and Tom, that's amazing. All the directors, they know they're not going to get everything they ask for, but they're very good about prioritizing. And I appreciate that because I'd like to give them everything they ask for, but there's no unlimited ATM. Okay? Now I know there's some people think there is, and just because we have a really good healthy fund balance, there are some people that believe that we do have an unlimited ATM, but we don't. So the directors are very, very good at making sure that they prioritize their expenditures because they know we can only spend so much in order to sustain the budget. So I commend all the directors. I commend Cricket and Michaela for their help in putting everything together. And also this year, Aubrey from Communications did, oh my gosh, if you've seen, when you go online and you actually look at the budget message, and it's like you're reading a book, the way that she has put that together with Aaron's help. So I just want to recognize her and Aaron's team for that. So I'll be glad to answer any questions the council has.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but it's difficult if you come up with a list of street projects to try to stay up with it. By the time you go out and look at it, it's already done. So you've got to go back and find out another street project. Rocky's crew, I was kidding him the other day, I was going to mention that. I don't know how he stays up with it because his crew's gone so fast. So it's a good job, and that's one that the citizens really look at, and they really see those projects. So it makes us look good overall.
Well, I don't have any questions tonight because the staff did such a great job at our work session the other night and answered our questions. And I think that's important for everyone to understand. I think they watch this meeting and they see us not asking a lot of questions. I'm thinking, are they doing their job? Well, go back and watch the work session because we spent 4 hours going through this almost line by line, working through it, and lots of questions. So, which goes to the point of how well our directors and our staff do to put this together so that we can educate ourselves and make wise decisions about the financial expenditures. So I echo the city manager's compliments and thanks because it's a big job. It is every year, and it just seems to get bigger.
I just love a government that balances its budget and staff that are very cognizant of the people's money. It's a really awesome thing. And before I finish, my computer locked up, so someone will have to come up here. It like totally crashed, and so I had to sign out, but so someone else to log me back in.
Well, I will just say this, but obviously it's not rainbows and unicorns in everything we do. We have challenges. Basically, Life Right is a challenge, making sure that we sustain our revenues going forward, meeting the expectations residents have about capital improvements, and so we spend a lot of time. Water and sewer, as the council members know, we're looking at long-range plans, which means those are going to, in order to meet the expectations. And so Kenny Schwab spends an incredible amount of time, and so does Norm, trying to determine how best to go forward. And I'm just very happy that we have folks that are looking not only today but also into the future about where Broken Arrow is going to be. And at some day when we all transition out, we want to leave those people that come behind us with a plan. And I think that we're doing that.
Well, I'd like to comment too. I try never to get this too close to his time for his evaluation. But the city manager does an excellent job of tying this all together. And the first time that he even come up with, the budget, and budget we look at as one of our primary jobs. You could tell after you read the first 4 or 5 pages what all was in the budget. So he outlines it just like a good teacher would do, what I'm going to teach you, and then you teach you, and then they give you a review, that's what I taught you. So he really makes it easy for the council to go through after he's taken all of his great staff information and put it together. So he does an excellent job and makes it easy for us.
Indeed. All remember after the work session, I asked Joanne, I was like, is it always this way? I mean, it has been since I've been on council, but before then, had it always been this way? And they're like,
No.
so.
No.
So, thank you, guys.
Thank you, folks.
So we need to call the public hearing, open a public hearing. Correct? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item? Okay. I'll close the public hearing for item 7F, or A.
And we'll vote on that the 20th, is that correct?
Because by law, we have to have it in place by then, right?
Yes, everybody had by June 30th.
Just kind of an important item.
Yes. Thanks for pointing that out. There are no citizens signed up to speak on item 8.